Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. It is my hope that in these conversations, we are able to find our truth and be inspired and empowered to live our very best lives. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hey friends, welcome back to the podcast. I am delighted to have you here. Happy November. Happy new season. Happy beginning of the holidays, whether that is filling you with bliss and excitement and anticipation, or a little bit of dread and overwhelm and feeling like you're already behind. Let's just collectively take a deep breath. We can do this. This is the right kind of hard. These are all good things. And this is just your invitation to hold space for yourself, to be present for yourself, to reevaluate what's important and how that interacts with what your traditions are for this time of year. And if there are any traditions that are no longer serving you, or if you are feeling like this is a time to create a new tradition. For many, many years, decades, Thanksgiving has been my favorite holiday. I love being in the kitchen. I love entertaining. I love having my favorite people sit around the table. I love fall. I love centerpieces. I love that that is a meal that takes several days to prepare, because honestly, most of my meals take several days to prepare. It's just how I like to cook. So I love all of the elements of Thanksgiving, the anticipation of Christmas on its way, but also everyone is in the same room and there's no presents. It's just yummy. And it has always been my favorite. And in the past couple of years, with my change in marital status, with my mom getting older and not traveling, with my cousins' children getting older and wanting their own traditions, Thanksgiving is looking different this year. In fact, it's going to be Amelia and I, and she's really excited to cook with me, and we're going all out in the kitchen, and we will be enjoying that meal for several days, based on what she has on her list to cook. And I'm embracing the grace that is associated with intentionally creating a new tradition, or at least a pause in tradition with regard to Thanksgiving. And oh my word, am I throwing all of my bliss and joy into New Year's Eve. And I feel like over the past couple of years, with the personal development journey that I've been on, with this spiritual work that I'm doing, with these practices in presence that I'm incorporating, with this evolution of saying yes to myself over and over and over again, that my desires are changing. And I believe that even in my heart, I am transitioning from a Thanksgiving as my favorite holiday kind of girl to New Year's Eve as my favorite holiday kind of girl. I mean, there's champagne. So hello, obviously, that's a favorite for me. And it's just this time of anticipation, of setting intention, of dreaming big, of walking into a new year as the woman that I'm becoming. There's nothing that feels behind. I don't feel like I'm rushing because we're just about to start something new, and I love beginnings. And I'm really, really, really excited that this year I will be spending New Year's Eve in Paris and Versailles. And I could not be more thrilled and more excited to invite you to join me. So this trip is beautiful, is more luxurious than any trip I have offered so far. We will be staying at the Waldorf Astoria Trianon Palace in Versailles. Beautiful 5-star accommodations. You might not even want to leave the room. But if you decide to, we have wonderful things planned. We're going to the opera inside the Chateau of Versailles. There's a beautiful opera house. I never even knew that until I was just there in September. I'm really delighted that there is a matinee available while we are there, and we are going. We will be doing a cooking class with Veronique in Paris and just walking through the market and through the streets with all the Christmas decorations still up. And I'm really excited about that. We have a champagne workshop with Cynthia at Delectables. That's going to be amazing. We will be setting intentions for the new year. We will be holding space for our dreams. We will be giving them water and sunshine, and they will grow serious, beautiful roots before you get on the plane and go back to your home on January 2nd. I'm only taking 4 women on this trip, and it will be transformational for all of us. And I'm so excited to invite you to join me in Paris and Versailles, December 27th through January 2nd. The link is in the show notes. Everything you need to know to save your spot is there. And speaking of Paris, one of the women that was very inspirational to me as I began putting these trips together back in October of 2021 is Doni Belau. And she founded a company that originally was called Girls Guide to Paris and is now Girls Guide to the World. And would you believe, eek, she is my guest today on the podcast. I'm so excited and was absolutely fangirling and could not have been more touched and inspired and encouraged and just delighted by her hospitality and her grace and her wisdom. And I think you are going to love this conversation. Doni Belau founded women-only tour company, Girls Guide to the World. In 2009, with a mission to empower women of all ages to explore the world, Girls Guide to the World now offers 60 tours in 40 countries. As an intrepid traveler who has explored over 80 countries, Doni has used her destination knowledge to curate a diverse portfolio of trips, catering to a wide range of interests, from cultural immersion and culinary tours to active adventures and wellness retreats. Each itinerary is thoughtfully crafted to spark curiosity, foster authentic connection, and create lasting memories. Doni's diverse experiences, from television production to humanitarian work in South Africa, have fueled her passion for creating transformative journeys that blend personal growth with the joy of exploration. With over 15 years of experience in the travel industry, Doni's in-depth understanding of destinations, travel trends, and evolving consumer desires ensures that each tour offered prioritizes connection, personal growth, and unforgettable experiences. When not leading trips, she divides her time between France, New Orleans, and a sailboat named Relish. a testament to her adventurous spirit. Like I said, I think you are going to love this conversation. So put on your walking shoes or start chopping those vegetables for your Thanksgiving dinner. And please enjoy this fabulous conversation with Doni Belau. Doni, I have to tell you right from the beginning that I'm having a bit of a fangirl moment because I know you're quote unquote just a person, but you are, oh, I'm going to cry now. This is how you know I'm not lying. You are such an inspiration to me. And when I received an email from your publicist that you were interested in being on my podcast, I was pinching myself and telling my daughter Amelia, oh my gosh, it's as if she's a big Descendants fan. She's 10. And I was telling her, imagine if Dove Cameron wanted to talk to you on the phone and have you design a dress for her. And so then my daughter was screaming so excitedly. So all to say, all the balloons are flying around here in celebration of you being here. Thank you so much.
Wow, I'm almost embarrassed. That's the nicest introduction anyone's ever given to me. And I can say just right off the bat, call me Dove.
I will.
I don't even know who that is, but I'm sure all 10-year-olds out there do. So that's just so sweet. I love it. That's really kind of you. Thank you. I'm thrilled to talk to you, Wendy.
It's so fun. And I love these kinds of meetups and introductions. And when you are following a person or you find out that they're doing something and you see they're almost the future, like the version of your future self, something that you really desire to do, which, absolutely with your trips and with your fun cocktails, it's all so fun. Like we have so much in common. We're going to be great friends. I'm really excited about that. But
Me too.
I really am. I am inspired by your yes, and I'm inspired by the way your offerings are such an invitation for others to say yes to themselves. And it's just this beautiful ripple effect that is a collective up level for all of us. Because, and I promise I'll let you talk, but I know how the women that go on my trips, I know like how they come back unrecognizable to themselves in the best possible way. I know that I do these trips because I'm obsessed with the woman that I become on the other side of it. So to do it at the level that you're doing it and the frequency, I can't wait to hear all about your yes.
So exciting. I love the collective up level. I'm gonna have to borrow that term. Very cool.
Anytime. So how are you saying yes to yourself in this season?
I love that question. And I love the concept, of course, behind this podcast, because I think it's something that maybe we should ask ourselves on a weekly basis, maybe on a daily basis, because I actually had a little bit of a hard time answering that. Uh, I'm thinking, because right now I'm in the hardcore work mode, which is, let's face it, those of us who have our own companies are in a lot of the time. And even when I was a mom, a stay-at-home mom, there's work to be done. And we Americans are just working all the time, right? So I think for me, any time that I'm giving myself permission to not work or do, not do really, is the way that I can say yes to myself. So I think closing the computer at 6 o'clock. Sometimes the other night it was 8 o'clock. But once it's closed, and I want to, full disclosure, my husband works with me. I have a team of about 8 people, and he's the basically the unpaid slave labor. Which I don't recommend, slave labor, clearly, but he's been incredibly supportive, and he had his own big company for a long time. So he's really the reason, his help is the reason why we've gotten to the level that we have with our tours, and the, the bandwidth, shall we say. But it also is a little bit of a catch 22, because we were watching the Olympics last night, and then he said, "Can I ask you a couple of questions about work?" And I was like, "No, we really have to turn off." And it's really hard when everybody who has their own business knows this. And look, even those of us who have, well, nobody has a 9 to 5 job anymore, but maybe you think you do, but you're getting emails, 24/7 on the weekends. And then there's that sense of obligation, like, oh, I've got to answer that. So for me, saying yes to myself is giving myself permission to stop, stop
Right.
working, enjoying myself, just it, spending some time outside. Like, I just took a walk earlier, and it was an errand walk. I'll be truthful here, but we sail in the summer, so we're on our sailboat, and I'm now trying to do, and my son gave me this idea, basically digital detox or screen free Sundays. So to take 24 hours, and I did this last weekend, not look at my phone. I mean, maybe I'll listen to a podcast at night. I love to listen to podcasts, but to have a day where you're out in nature. So, sailing, you're obviously out in nature, but it can be any way of getting out into nature, and taking a whole day off screens. It's so healing for me. It's like I have this newfound energy, because we were not meant to be working 24/7 and on screens 24/7. That is clear to me. That's a
Right.
long answer, but that's where I'm
Oh
at right
no,
now.
I love it. I love that. And what comes up for me is just this word productive and accomplished. And because I often, as I have a morning practice, I get up at 4:45 every day, and I read and journal and meditate. And I find in my journaling, I'm reflecting on the day before, and I'm grateful that I had an accomplished day. I felt accomplished, I felt productive. And I'm a single mom living on a small flower farm, running a historic bed and breakfast, leading trips to France. Like, there is a lot to do, and it's all dreamy and fun and fabulous. And I hear you about the deliberate intention required to unplug. I Our jobs are fun. So it's not like I have to set a boundary because these people are abusing me. It's not that. It's like, I used to be a wedding planner, right? I was a wedding planner for
Yeah.
30 years. And I know, well, when my bride is thinking about her wedding, she's thinking about her wedding. So if she emails me at midnight and I see it, I'm going to respond. And I've just conditioned myself and live in a culture that nobody argues with anyone who's overgiving
Mm.
on their other person's behalf, right? I've never had a bride say, "Oh, listen, I really think you need to set some office hours." So it's
No, they're
really
not there to take care of you, right?
exactly. And it can feel like, who? I don't know. Am I allowed? Will my business fall apart if I'm not available 24 hours a day? And, these are questions that are, of course, that's not true. And of course, you will fall apart if you are available 24 hours a day, right?
Right. And
Yeah.
it's
So,
the fear too.
yeah.
It's the fear when you're self-supporting, and it's your business, and the fear comes in. That's why I think, and for even people who are, it's not their own business, but "Oh, well, I'd be fired if I don't answer this email at midnight." I mean, I have this girl who works for us, and she's, I said, you do not have to answer any emails after 8 or whatever the time you set for yourself. Everyone's virtual. Everybody works all over the world in our company, but it is, it's amazing how we are driven to almost upset and physical deterioration by this inner drive or this need to be productive. It really is, it's harmful. And in France, they passed a law that said if an employer emails you and expects a return email over the weekend, that's illegal. You're not allowed to do that. Can you
Yet
imagine?
another reason to love France, as if we needed one.
Exactly.
Wow. I think it's really beautiful that you are aware and present to these concepts and these practices in your own life, and that you are leading a team of people that you have the opportunity to model this for. Because if you are answering emails past whatever time you've decided, and you're telling your team not to do that, there is no chance that they're going to listen to that if you are not modeling the same, right? Because they're going to
Yeah.
think that you'll think that they're slackers. And it really takes a lot of grace and trust and surrender to allow yourself to have a softer experience.
Yeah, and I think that is the opportunity we have as women in the workforce, is that we don't have to do it the same way as it's been done heretofore. And I think men are also trying to look at leadership in a different way as well. But I think for, maybe those who came before us, the real groundbreaker ladies and women executives and women leaders, felt they had to do things the same way they've been done. But we don't. I really believe in connection, in
Mhm.
supporting one another at my company, but also, that's what our trips are all about. It's really not so much about seeing Bali, as amazing as that is, or going to Japan and having the best meal of your life, but it's about that, the hidden thing, which is not really why people sign up for the trip. But if you're a solo female traveler, which is something like 85% of the people who travel solo are women, uh, that is the best thing that you can get as a souvenir from your travels, whether they're to Charleston or China or anything in between, is coming home with a new friend. And it might be the coolest thing, I think, and why we keep our groups really small. We go from 6 to 10, and I think you keep your groups really small too. So I think you probably have the same mindset. But especially to get to know somebody that wasn't your first like aha person. So you're in a group, you're having dinner that first night, and you're kind of looking around, as we all do, with maybe a little bit more judgment before your heart really opens to everybody. And you say, "Oh, that looks like my kind of gal." And then this girl, I don't know if she's my kind of girl. And then by day 3 or 4, because of the facilitation that we are trying to do, is to get everybody to connect, and we really train all of our leaders in doing that. So it becomes, I think of it almost for myself as almost like a spiritual practice to connect all of us together. But that's a wonderful moment when you realize that, Wendy, let's say, who you didn't think was going to be your kind of person, all of a sudden you've sat next to her, you've heard her story, you've asked her a bunch of questions, she's done the same, and you're like, "Oh, this, I love this woman. She didn't seem like she was my kind of girl, but now she's like my favorite person I've met all year." So that is why you travel is to keep having these discoveries. But what I love about group travel, particularly women only, is that other connection discovery, that you're not only connecting with the culture, with a place, but with women. And we're just born to want to connect and be part of a group. It just makes you feel alive and great.
Absolutely. And it cements so much of the experience you're having in this other culture. It cements all of that because you feel safe and you feel seen
Mm,
and you feel heard. And when we feel those things, we experience everything around us differently in a more
yeah.
holistic way. And what I have found as well on my trips, that when I'm marketing them, I'm saying, oh, we're going to go to Champagne and be pickers for the day, and we're going to bake with Molly in Versailles, and we're going to cook with Veronica. I'm say all of these features, but I've begun to really communicate the benefits, which are you will make connections with women that you cannot even fathom how you ever got this far in your life without knowing this woman. You will make connections with yourself. Like I said
Yeah.
earlier, I'm obsessed with the woman that I become on the other side of these trips. So that's why I will continue to do them, because they're life changing for me. And so much of that, I believe, is because of the pattern interrupt. So we are all managing so many details in our life at home, whether we still have small children at home, or even if they're gone, we're still thinking about all the things, and work and our spouse and all the people in our sphere, and how many rolls of toilet paper there are in the guest bathroom, and when the heater needs to be serviced. We're just holding all of this information all at the same time. And we love being that person for our people. But something happens when you get away from your chores and away from your responsibilities, and you are not even on the same time zone, and you don't have to do anything but decide if you're having another glass of champagne, or if you're just going to walk instead of take the Uber. I mean, there are all these beautiful little decisions that let you be so present. And I'm not sure that that is their experience on the day to day.
Right. Right. I mean, I like how you put it as a pattern interrupt. I love coming up with these phrases because I feel like I'm always trying to explain this. I call it the C list. So you've got that checklist every day, the to do list. I always have 25 things when I can really, at the best possible scenario, get 15 done. And I'm still pushing myself to do 25. Like, for heaven's sakes, I'm 60 years old. At some point, get a grip. You can't get that many things done in one day, but it's some sort of drive I was born with. But when you are away, somebody else has planned it. Somebody else that you can trust, who has some good taste. That's all important, because it's terrible to be on, I don't know, just something that someone else has organized, whether it's a friend or whatever, where you're not really getting to the right place and so forth. That could be painful. But when you can just let go, and somebody else is taking over and in control. And yeah, like you said, all you have to do is, do I want pink, or a rosé or white champagne? That's a wonderful thing to boil it all down to that. It's fantastic, but it's that pattern interrupt. Because what I find, and I started this, I think I had my first solo trip, and I'm talking about totally solo, in my 40s, and I was, at the peak, probably closer to where you are right now, where, kids are probably, I don't remember, 8 and 12, or maybe a little bit older, but I thought, "Ah, I just have not been alone in so long. Like, my husband and I have known each other since high school. We got married at 24, and then I'm a very social person. I have like lots of friends, and this is before the business. But I just realized the other day it's kind of what inspired me perhaps to start this business. And I was in politics and not for profit, totally different. But I just thought I started feeling like I was at sort of a breaking point. Like I am just not a happy person right now. And I think, blaming my spouse. And so I said, quite supportive. And I said, I need to get away. And I think, I can't remember if I took, um, 3 weeks or whatever it was when I was in, maybe it was 4, maybe it was 6. It was whatever the amount of time I could figure out to do. Kids were in camp, and I went to France. We have had a home there for 25 years now. So that was lucky enough. But, it wasn't just totally solo. Met up with my sister at her house, and then I met up with a friend of mine and traveled a little bit in Spain, but I had a lot of time to myself. And when you have that pattern interrupt, as you put it, I remember, I want to say it's like week 1, I called my husband, and I said, "You know what? It's not you, it's me.
Mm.
I need time for myself." And I think we as givers, constant givers, women, and we are told that we're the caretakers, and, we're taking care of our kids and the grandkids, and then the mother and the father and the stepmother and the aunt and the uncle and all the people and the dogs and the rolls of toilet paper and everything else. We forget, if we don't take care of ourselves, if that means, just like you said, getting up in the morning and having that solo time. Or in my case, I really needed to get away for a while, completely on my own, and realize that I'm not just a mother. I mean, God, it's the most important job in the world. And I'm so grateful that I had that opportunity and still do. My kids are in their 30s, but I'm not just a mother, friend, wife, supporter, volunteer, class mom, and all the other things, and entrepreneur. I'm okay just being me by myself. And I don't have to, because, when you're in those roles, there's a container that you're in. But when you step out of that role, now you realize, well, I could do this, and oh, you just, things come to you. This creativeness sort of boils up, and I think that is true when you're on these group vacations too, group trips, that you start to realize, like, well, just because I always do this at 3 o'clock every day and this is a drag, well, hey, I don't have to do that. I You just start to find um, opportunities for yourself that, in all the noise of day-to-day life, it doesn't seem possible.
Right, right. And you're still this productive being like you are at home, but you get to use all of that energy on you. So, I mean, you're more than welcome to stay in the hotel and just have breakfast in bed if you want. You don't have to join us. But what I see happen, and what 100% happens for me, is I have so many new ideas and creativity and all of this energy that I'm using for my day-to-day balancing act. I still have it. I'm not in a coma. I'm just in a new place. And the beauty of Paris for me, I mean, I love France, and I love that you've expanded, and I want to hear how you did that. But for me, when I am in Paris and I look at these gorgeous carvings around a window of a building, and it's just one of so many, and it reminds me that my dreams are not too big. And I get to
Oh,
be, do, and have whatever I desire. And this place reminds me that that's true. And then I go to Versailles
ah,
and like, and it can be made of gold. Like, what? This place is awesome. So I need that, because sometimes when I'm here, or if before I curated the community I desired, I found myself in conversations with people that were just telling me to settle down and you just keep those dreams to yourself, little girl, and you
Right.
don't,
You stay in your
that's,
place.
yeah, that's never going to happen. So just stop being mean to yourself and thinking that your little business is going to ever amount to anything. Well, I am just not available for those conversations anymore. And I do not
Mm-mm.
have them anymore. And I have curated the community I desire. And the conversation like this one right now, these are the only conversations I'm available for. And they are, in fact, the only ones I have.
Yeah. And, you know, I think we forget that we have permission to, um, you know, let the negative people in our life go.
Mhm.
And it's not that we need to judge them because I just had this great training with all of our trip leaders, with a fantastic leadership coach. And she reminded all of us, and I love this saying, hurt people, hurt people. So if somebody doesn't feel capable in their own life, they'll say, you can't do that and you can't go to Paris. Oh, there's this thing that I can send your way that's going to make you feel fearful. And people do that all the time to my clients too. And when we did a trip to Georgia, after the Ukraine war had started a couple of years ago, and Georgia's right next to Russia. And one lady said, uh, my sister told me my plane would be shot down on the way here. And she luckily just dismissed her. But others of us are still susceptible, haven't developed the community or haven't felt that we have permission to say, hey, if you want to encourage me, that's great. But otherwise, not really interested in talking about it. I don't need your fear put on me. And there's probably a more elegant way to say it. But yeah, obviously it's your sister, so you still have to remain in some sort of contact with her. But I did have a great therapist once that said, when this was someone in my family starts to go off on sort of the negative tangent, you say, okay, well, you know what? I have to go and let's check back in next week and just really keep it positive and, hang up. And that's what you have to do is just, you have to hang up on the negativity.
Right, right. And sometimes you have to get on a plane and leave it.
Mm.
So,
Exactly. And
right.
see the most beautiful city in the world. And I bet you're loving the Olympics with all this Paris, Paris all the time.
I am, but I am also eager to be there without scaffolding and closed roads and bleachers and all of that. But I'm thrilled that people seem to be having a great time.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so
You know,
wonderful.
just a quick tangent on what we were saying, and I was thinking about this while we were talking, but that I think that people think taking a trip, and it's our mindset again, probably Western or particularly US work, and even Northeast is even worse than other parts of the country. I think we're very focused on this productivity and work, work, work. But I think a lot of women and men, to some degree, feel you're taking a vacation, so it's a luxury. It's something you don't need. And interestingly, I had a great podcast conversation about a year or two ago with a lady who was a counselor, and she dug up all this great research and science that showed that actually women that take a vacation twice a year are 8 times less likely to have a heart attack as those who take a vacation every 6 years. Okay, that's, a big yin and yang there, a big difference.
Right.
But there's so many people in this country who do not take any time off. So it's actually an investment in yourself, not only for all the things we've been talking about, giving yourself space and getting that creativity flowing and getting the negativity out of your life, but it's actually physically can save your life. Isn't that
Right.
amazing?
Yes, it is. And we can both attest to that. Look how
Yeah.
happy we are. Look how healthy we are. It's because our yes has such ripple effects in our own bodies when we come home and just living in the yes, but also for everyone watching. And I mean, I've just been in the short time that I've been following you. When I first started following you, it was Girls Guide to Paris. and now
Yep.
it's Girls Guide to the World. So I'm so thrilled at how this has expanded. And if it's in your heart, I would love to hear kind of how that trajectory was. And, you said that it kind of started with you taking your own extended solo trip, but what happened next?
Well, thanks for that opportunity because it's always fun to tell your story. I think I didn't even realize until the other day that that time that I took in my 40s when I realized that, even though I was all these roles, that I'm actually really happy and content to be with myself, by myself. I would take myself out to dinner and say, "Oh, I've actually had a really good time with myself."
Right.
So it's nice. I think all of us need to find a place and a way to be okay alone. It's really important. A lot of people have a hard time with that. They'll say, "I can't eat dinner alone." I can't, I just feel too awkward. But this kind of solo travel that you and I are both doing and helping women do is an opportunity to sort of take the first step in really being on your own for a short time. Maybe that's just a week or a weekend. You can start small. But I guess that experience that I had back in my 40s, I realized I wanted to help and empower other women to do that. But let's dial back for a moment. I used to be in politics and not for profit, so saving the world, if you will, and that is an exhausting and major burnout business. And I noticed at one point I was just getting really burnt out, and I notice I'm getting burnt out if I start getting cynical, and I cynicism is something I really don't like to see in other people, especially don't like to see in myself. I was talking with a friend, this is going back quite a while now, and I said, I really like to do something around Paris. Paris is my happy place. We're lucky enough to have a place there. And, she said, well, remember that girls' trip that we did? It was like six or eight of us. She said, I said, well, I'd like to write a book about my Paris, my version of Paris. And, because we all have a lens in which we see a place, whether it's New York, Paris, London, or, your barn in the countryside. But it's fun to show people my version, because that's what I do when people come, right? She said, well, why don't you call it The Girl's Guide to Paris? So she was a book, actually a book editor, and she was like, yeah, this is the perfect thing, this whole chicklet thing, it's not going away. And I think and it was really the name that was such a great idea, and it gave me, I didn't even think of that at all. And so, leaning on your friends sometimes and sharing your dreams with them, those who are positive and supportive, super. It's just so helpful. But then I went to another friend who had been the former head of Doubleday. He said, "Oh well, nobody's going to publish your book. I mean, you're not an expert in Paris, other than the fact you have an apartment there. Like, it's just nowadays, if you want to publish a book, you have to be already, you already have to have your own audience. You have to have a built-in audience, which is unfortunately true. So I thought, well, I'll start a website. And how hard could that be? Well, this is back in 2008, 2009, when they didn't have these, build it in half an hour kind of Wix and all these easy to build websites. So it was like fully coded, from scratch, which was harder than giving birth to two different, two children. I mean, it was like 9 month, childbirth process, creating this website. And I had no plan. I had no business plan. It's like I could write a book on how not to start a business. I could teach a class at Harvard. I don't do any of the things I did, which is, I had no idea how I was going to make money. So the first couple of years were really difficult because I was going to be a content website. Instead of going to your photos or your Frommer's guide, it was going to be all, things that I had checked out personally, hotels, restaurants, and, all of we had a blog post every day. So we had all this great content, a million readers a year, and I was making no money. In fact, I was losing money. Invested tons of money in this thing. So finally, I was throwing, darts at the wall trying to figure out, this is, I really like doing this, but, I shouldn't be paying to work. Makes sense. So
Right.
finally, yeah. not as smart. So we did the first tour in 2011, I want to say. So a couple of years in, we started in 2009. We're going to have our 15th anniversary this year. And we did our first,
Congratulations.
thank you. I know, I can't
That's
believe it.
huge.
Well, we did our first tour with my life coach, one of the coolest ladies in the world. And actually, you remind me of her.
Oh,
Debbie Phillips is her name, and she actually is coaching at the White House now, if you can imagine. And that's going to be a big job, particularly after the last month or so.
yes.
But she's just my hero. She's just an amazing, positive, great, incredible person. So she brought a bunch of her clients, and and it was hard. I was like, wow, this, and I, everything went well. They were wonderful women. And I'm just saying all of this to encourage anybody who's going to start any kind of business or any kind of project, that it doesn't always work out perfectly right away. I mean,
Right.
and for me, the story is I had to stick with it. So that first tour, I was like, afterwards, I was exhausted. I was like, this is not, I'm not cut out for this. This is too hard. Took me a while to get the courage up to do the next one. Also hard, but just like, when you're on that learning curve, then each one gets easier, and you learn and you learn and you learn. And, I do feel like I should give some money back to some of those first four people, because, I'm learning alongside them. And then,
I don't know though. I think there's something to being founding members because
yeah.
the founder is so in it and so committed to that person's experience. Like you're not leading all of the tours that you've got on your books now. So those people
No.
should actually pay more that you were their
Oh,
leader.
you're clearly a coach yourself. So, long story short, France was successful, and not everybody
Can I ask
is the same as you and I.
how many trips before you deemed it successful? Because you said the first one was hard, the second one was easier, but now it's successful. How did you define
I would say it was just really about experience. So it
good?
was, I'm deeming successful as people liked the trip, and I didn't want to go to a spa for a solid week afterwards, right? I
Brilliant.
still need a couple, 3 days to really, chill, because you're giving, it's big. It's a lot of commitment on the part of anybody who does these trips. It's exhausting. It's fun, uplifting, and exhausting. But eventually, we realized that, unlike you and me, not everybody wants to go to France every single year. So
Fine.
I had to come up with some more product. And then, we moved to the UK, not moved physically, but that was our first tour outside of France. And then slowly here and there, Africa, this, that, and the other place. Now we have something like 40 countries, 60 trips, each year. But I will say that COVID, of all things, was helpful to us,
Mhm.
even though, the world is shutting down, the whole business shut down for, you know, uh, basically a year and a half, perhaps it was. No, maybe I don't remember. I've kind of blocked it out a little bit, but it
Right.
allowed me the time, and it's actually when my husband joined, because he got sick of the tech stuff he was doing, and we were able to build partnerships with other amazing women who are doing great things like yourself. And I realized, I don't have to do everything from scratch. And it gave us the time and the space and the energy to redo the website, to just think bigger. It was all this time to strategize. And that's when we kind of just started blowing up, and we went from, 5 trips to 10, 20, 40, 60. So, and with his help, I will say, and getting an operations manager, and getting, you've got to invest in order to grow. But it's now, on this call that we just had today with something more than 20 trip leaders, each person is invested in bringing their highest self to these trips as a trip facilitator, and really understands the reason why they're there. And yes, it's to show, you know, people what it's like to see an elephant in the wild, but it's so much more about holding a space for those women who decide to take this leap, and holding space for them to be free to feel safe, but also to explore different parts of themselves as they explore other parts of the world and open up to new people. And it's actually, there's so much there that's available to them, but it heartens, it just I almost started crying because I was so proud of all these women and how much they give and how much they get back. When, as we all know, we get back so much when we are giving on that deepest of heart levels.
Oh, I love that that was your experience, because I can imagine, as a business owner, scaling from you doing everything to trusting that someone else is going to show up the way you show up and your name's on it. And, there's a lot that you work through in releasing control, which I don't know many women that are great at releasing control. I definitely experienced it in my wedding planning days. The sweet mother of the groom. She is a woman with no say, and we're not really good at it. So that's always
No.
like, I connect with her relatively early because I want her to know that I see her and I hear her, and that she is not just a person with no voice. But it can be really hard, especially, you've built this, it's your baby, you love it, and it really shows so much of who you are and how you are leading in a way that is an invitation for these women to be their highest and best. And you are
Yeah.
expecting them to show up as their highest and best. And that is drawing them up. Where if you were saying, I only do it this way, or this is it must be, these 5 things are the only things that we do as having some knowing yourself and knowing your mission, and then communicating that clearly, which we were talking about messaging earlier before we hit record. When you are in tune with yourself and with your messaging, then you can scale effectively, because you can bring people in and educate and communicate with them, and also learn from them, which is just
Oh,
really
yes.
beautiful.
You know, I don't want to burst your bubble, but there was
Burst my
plenty
bubble.
of, yeah, there was plenty of mistakes made. I mean,
Sure.
we certainly had a trip leader or two that was not invited back for one reason or another. It's hard. It's not for everyone. It is a real giving job, and it yeah, really have to almost move to this heart level, this spiritual level, in order to, because there's going to be people on your trip that are going to do
Yeah,
something to kind of rub you the wrong way. And
right.
so obviously we made mistakes along the way. Now we are really in our stride, but there's just always another step. So this training was another step. I put together what we call the Girls Guide Bible. So it's kind
Mm.
of like a branding thing, but it's also like what to do if you have, and now we're talking about real inner working. So I hope people will forgive me, but what to do when you have a chatty Cathy. So when you're in a group of, that's just one example of 6 to 8 women, let's say, and we all know we have a friend like this, and maybe it's us, we might be this person, but the one who doesn't want to release the floor because she has a lot to say. She might be really interesting, but she's not great at listening or asking questions. So we have, okay, here are the 3 things you can do. So it is
Please
really
share 2 of the 3 things we can do, because I'm sure even if no one listening is leading a trip, we all have that person, and we want to do it graciously. And typically, no one's listening to her. That's why she's taking the opportunity to say so much.
I think that is exactly, you are so right on. And, you know, it's really important. When I was back in politics, um, there was a gal who said, and this is another person you might come up against, not only in on a trip, but in life. I am so amazing. I'm the one who got this governor elected, and I raised more than anyone else. And she's giving her resume all the time, and in a non-charming way, right? Let's put it that way. But I had to work with this lady, and finally, because the instinct is to well, with the chatty Cathy is to cut them off or try and get in there, right? Or the instinct with this lady is to say, you're almost like you become combative or dismissive of this constant bragging about themselves, right? But at one point, I just said, that's amazing that you did that. Tell me more. I'm so impressed. I just gave her what she wanted.
Right.
Um, and she then became like a little child, almost jelly in my hands. And ever since then, she didn't feel the need to keep giving her resume because I heard her, you
Mm,
know? Now, with some of the chatty Cathys, it's a little bit because this is a habit that they've gotten into, and they're a little bit uncomfortable when there's quiet, right? So they
mhm.
feel the need. And then they're also a little panicked if they let the floor go, then, somebody, and then they won't, what, there's an anxiety portion to that. So you have to find a way to lessen the anxiety. But also, I will sometimes sit next to that person, put my hand on them and say, "That's so cool, but what do you think about that, Wendy? What do you think about that, Susan?" And, I want to hear from Susan. And then she might interrupt our chatty Cathy. And then you just say, "Okay, just 1 second. I was just listening. I love what Susan had to say." And then I had one that was really difficult a long time ago, and I decided to hold a Jeffersonian dinner, which is a really fun thing to do. And I highly recommend anybody listening try to do this at home with some friends, because all of our friends, there's always the introverts and the ones that talk more. It's just normal. But
Right.
it's really cool. And I went to one. I didn't even know what it was, as a fundraiser one time. But you have somebody who leads it, and they ask, complex or interesting question, that it's not just what's your favorite color, or, what was your favorite podcast, but something intriguing, that will really open up more questions. And then you just go around the room and you tell everyone, hey, in a Jeffersonian dinner, all you have to do is you talk when it's your turn to talk. And then all you have to do is listen the rest of the time. And you don't need to say anything. Like if I say, well, this is my opinion, blah, blah, blah. You don't have to jump in and say, oh, wow, that's the same as me, blah, blah, blah. Because that's a way that we women connect, is we say, oh, yeah, I get that. That's how I feel too. But all you have to do is just listen. So it starts getting that listening muscle, which I think all of us need more practice at in our society, to just listen, actually listen to the other person. And you might really enjoy it.
Absolutely. I love that so much. I'm reminded of a class that I took several years ago that had a lot of discovery and sharing of learnings. We had a project that we worked on, and then we would need to journal about our experience and then share in the group. And the rules for the group discussion were that everyone got their turn, but no one in the group was allowed to comment on what each person said. They could only say thank you. And it
Wonderful.
changed, right? It changes the way you listen when you know my only obligation when this person's mouth stops moving is to say thank you. I don't need to, go to my personal reference. I remember I read a book and who was that author? And now I'm not even listening because I'm preparing
In
my.
my own thing. Yeah.
Yes, and it was so beautiful and so memorable. It was probably 15 years ago, And I just now feel like I've become much better at holding space for people that just need somebody to hear them.
Everyone needs to be heard, you know?
Yep.
It's
And
so,
when you feel
so important.
safe, right? When you feel safe and when you feel like, for you as the group leader, for me as the tour leader as well, I have command of the room. So no one's going to not get their turn. Like you can trust that that dynamic is going to work itself out because someone is paying attention and watching, but it really does allow everybody else to relax and lean in and own their own experience without having to manage everybody else's, because that's our job.
Yeah, and it is nice. Sometimes we need parameters. You know, I need parameters with my daily, desire to overwork. I need parameters with, how much I want to eat. I'd like to have 6 hot dogs, but so we want freedom, but we also need containers, parameters. So it is really nice when someone can set that up for you. It's not something that I do often because usually humor and I feel like we've had this really deep, beautiful conversation, but humor is such a big part of these experiences too. You can learn so it's a way of deflecting, but it's also fun to just keep them laughing. And my personal motto is never act your age, and because life should be more fun, it's just that's why we travel too. And some people get stressed, when they first join the trip because they're jet lagged, and I say, hey, we're just here to have fun. There's nothing else you have to do. You have to, wake up and get on the bus or the van or the car or on the walk, but that's it. We're just here to have some fun, and we need to let ourselves have some fun and, let the hair down and laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh. That's the great thing about getting women together is there's always a lot of laughter.
Yes, because again, you've created this beautiful vortex of safety. And when you feel safe, you can laugh.
Yeah, and you can feel relaxed and be who you are. I just want to read you because when we were talking before, I was thinking about it, how you were saying, how did I expand and so forth. And
Right.
and as you're learning along the way and you're trying to get these ideas across that we're talking about today, I hired last year a branding expert to keep checking in, like, am I putting out there what this experience is really about? um because what I don't want to do, and I think we talked about it before we started taping, but I don't want to put out something that it's, well, this is a luxury tour and it's all about the fabulous hotel and da da da. So yes, it is really nice, they're high-end tours and they're very curated, but that's not why I'm doing this at
Mhm.
all, at all. So it's, for me, it's about the connection. So this incredible guy, interviewed all the people on our team, interviewed us, interviewed, and looked at all of our materials and what we're putting out there. And then he wrote this document for us. But what I love is the mission statement. And it's
Mm.
because it's, you have to start everything with your values and what values are dear to you and why are you doing? Do people get why you're doing what you're doing? And are they buying into that? Because otherwise, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? And it doesn't, people are not going to resonate with what you put out there, whether it's, you're knitting something and trying to sell it, or you're creating a tour, or, whatever it is that you're doing in your life. So, and he, being a wordsmith, he did, for years in advertising. This is what he came up with based on our feedback and everything that we told him. So this is our, what he calls just cause, or the why. So people
Mm.
don't buy what you do or what you're selling, they buy why you're doing it.
Exactly.
So we exist, Girls Guide exists to empower women to safely expand their presence, connections, and belonging in the world. Nothing about travel.
That's gorgeous. That's
I just was so
so
impressed, but he was
beautiful,
able to put it into one sentence.
right?
And yeah, I
It's
love, and you're really good at
gorgeous.
that. I can see that too.
Oh, thank you. Well, and that just leads to what we were talking about before we hit record, that this year I deviated from my mission at the request of people that wanted, a couple that wanted me to curate a trip for them. And I'm entrepreneurial and I'm new to single parenting and running this farm by myself. And I'm going to try anything. And so I
Right.
decided, okay, sure, I'll do it. Like it's going to be the same itinerary, but great. It's double occupancy. So hooray, that's actually easier for the financial piece of it. But it
Mhm.
wasn't landing. And it wasn't landing because it was really messy inside of me. I was not, my
Mm.
marketing was not clear because I was not clear because I had deviated from what my mission actually is. In fact, one of the, I just thought, I'm not doing this well in print. I'm just going to go live and explain who this trip is for. Like it's for a woman who's, transitioning into this next chapter of her life and the man that celebrates her, or like what, I'm just like trying to figure this out. And someone contacted me and said, um so I'm a little confused because they live in New Orleans and it was during Mardi Gras, and they thought I was marketing to someone who was transitioning, like a sex change.
Literally, literally.
Yes. And I was like, oh my word, I have to go back. I need to be in alignment with myself. I know how to talk to the solo female traveler who is going to have
And
this
doing
jump.
a transition focused trip would be cool, but that was not what you were trying to do. So.
And we know a confused buyer does not buy, and a confused marketer does not sell. So I'm so grateful for the opportunity to learn. Oh, I actually do know what I want, and I'm going to get back to my lane and stay there. And I'm of course I'm always going to try new things, and I'm going to think, huh, okay, well, that sounded more fun than it was, so I'm not going to do that again. Or that was really good, but I'm going to course correct a little bit here or there, and we'll see. But that was a big lesson, and I'm very glad that I learned it. And I'm very happy to welcome solo female travelers for all of my future trips, because that's what's in my heart.
Yeah, I 100% understand, having done the exact same thing myself about 8 years ago or whatever it was, and that came up with the same answer. But what I think is the takeaway here for us, as well as hopefully everybody who is listening, is just because you've started a business or you're really good at what you do in your job doesn't mean you're perfect. Doesn't mean you've got it all figured out. Doesn't mean that you're not going to make mistakes. And I tell that when I've got somebody who had a vision about the trip, she's not as happy when she came home. So I figure at this point, I've also grown up enough to realize that I can make about 90% of the women happy on these trips. And then there's going to be 10% who had a different expectation. Maybe they're just not a happy person. Whatever the situation is, there's 100 different reasons why you can be in Paris and actually not enjoy yourself, although it is worrisome. There's something to worry about there. But I always just talk to them and say, look, I'm still learning how to do better, how to be better. And so I want to hear your feedback, good, bad, or ugly. And it helps to diffuse anybody who is feeling like I didn't get my money's worth or whatever it is they're feeling afterwards. Because it's always fun to listen to the people who said they loved it, it was life-changing, which is most people. But
Yeah.
then you feel really guilty about the one who you didn't, because but somebody else who's been doing this longer than me, she said, I can lay out magic in front of your eyes. I can create magic. I can bring you to a magical place. But you also have to, and of course, this is not how I respond when I'm talking to the actual client, but
Sure.
that person, it's obligatory on the client's part to open their eyes to enjoy it and to focus on all the good things, not the three things that did go wrong. Because on every trip, I always say, just know now something will go wrong. Because if you ever had a week in your life where every single thing fell into place perfectly, everyone was on time, the weather was perfect, every meal was perfect. Nobody has ever had a week like that. But people think when they go away, it's going to be this complete perfection. But life follows you wherever you go. So if we can get to the point where we're, the same cliche, half empty, half full, if we look at the water that is in the glass and, oh, this is almost empty here, but boy, I'm so grateful that I have this. And I'm so appreciative that I got to see this and be this and hear this and, roll with the punches, because that travel is a little microcosm of life. Don't you think?
Yes. Oh my gosh, 100%. And I think so much of what I experienced and learned as a wedding planner
Oh,
just
yeah.
works into this, and I know how to create a beautiful experience, pulling in all different vendors to meet the expectations or our interpretation of the vision of our bride. And in 30 years, I'm still learning from every wedding that I do. They're all different because they're people, and
Yeah.
it's just things happen, and that's just how it is. But I love that you are able to invite your clients into that understanding and to that knowing. And I really love just the reminder that 90% will be happy. It's just like if you have kids, when we adopted her from China and she was 2, and I was nervous if she wasn't eating everything, or she would like something one day and not the other. And I didn't know what to do. And my very dear friend said, if she eats 1 out of 3 meals a day, that's a win. And of
Yeah.
course, she always ate at least 2. So I was like, I'm mom of the year. Okay. And it's just when someone just gives you permission to not be at 100% all the time in every single thing you do, it's such a relief. Even though you can't be, it's just nice that somebody else knew it too and said it out loud to you. So thank
Yeah.
you. I
Yeah.
received that. I'm gonna put a new sticky note in front of my desk that just says, Doni Belau says, I can only make 90% of my clients happy. And
It's
that
true.
will help. Thank
Well, if I could be even the tiniest bit of help, I feel like you are helping all of us in the beautiful things that you're doing, particularly these podcasts. They're so heart centered and focused still. It's not a meandering thing. I think you're really just giving people nuggets on which to learn and live by.
you, Doni. That means so much. It is my favorite thing of all the fun and fabulous things that I do. I'm
I
so
can see
grateful.
that. I can hear that.
you. Hooray. Well, please tell everybody where they can find and follow you. I could talk to you all day, but I want to let you get on with your life. I have so many more questions. I would love to have you back, but please tell
Oh,
everyone
thank
where
you.
they can find and follow you.
Well, I could talk to you all day too. This has been so much fun for me. We are at Girls Guide to the World, so TO the World. And you can follow us also on Instagram, which is GG2, the number 2, the world. The same for Facebook, GG2 the world. And then, you can find all of it, of course, on our website. So just go to Girls Guide to the World. But we also have something I'd love to invite everybody to, which is called the Girls Guide Traveling Sisterhood. So it's a private Facebook group. I know a lot of us are just sick and tired of, all these social media channels, but this is a safe space. We don't do any selling there. We're not selling our trips. And you can just look it up. There's also a link, I believe, on the website. If not, you can always email us info@girlsguidetotheworld.com. But it's a place that I just want to cheer on other women to get out there and travel and see the world. We only live once. And, I just buried my nephew at 55. I see a lot of people, older women who've gotten to the place where they really can't travel anymore because they don't walk well. So, really, we don't have a lot of time to see this world, to open up our eyes, our hearts, our brains, and get creative and all the things that we've told you, that you can get through travel, and also how it prolongs your life. But it's just we're championing other women to get out there and travel, whether that's, not all of us have the money to go on these trips. So whether that is just going to your, neighboring town and walking the park, or going to a museum and art gallery, or coming on one of our trips, or going to visit a friend, get out there and do some saying yes to yourself, as you're teaching us so well to do. So I'd love to have people join that Facebook group, because it really is a safe space to share with one another, and people are really supportive there. So thank you so much for the
Oh,
opportunity to
my
share all this with you.
pleasure. Oh,
It's
it's
so much fun.
beautiful. Yes, and we'll link everything down in the show notes, including the Facebook group, so it'll be really easy for people to get there. Thank you
Great.
so much. I cannot wait to chat again.
Likewise, I can't wait to do something exciting with you in the future too.
Ooh, yes, please. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site, or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wrighthouse and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.